Hi guys, this is Tammy Neal. I'm here with a couple of friends and we are representing Full Circle PD today. Today our conversation is going to be about cultivating the whole child, and we're going to be really kind of focused on the student perspective, what that looks like from the student standpoint as we have some questions. So as we go through, I'm going to take a minute and we're going to introduce ourselves. I'm Tammy. I work in Branford, Florida at Branford High School. I am a CTE teacher teaching computer apps and game design. So, Rick, go ahead and introduce yourself.
And Tammy, we all want to be in your class because we know how exciting that is.
Yes.
I'm Rick Rowe. I am a facilitator of math content at a town in Massachusetts, Wilmington, Massachusetts, and I have the opportunity, which I consider an honor, every day to learn from and learn alongside 106 students with a focus on math, where we're really trying to round out that whole child and get to know each individual and value their time, but with a focus on math at the same time. So, to you, Bev?
Second grade teacher in Wilmington, North Carolina. And I cannot follow Rick. It's impossible. No.
Oh, Bev, you absolutely can.
No, I cannot. That was wrong. We should have foreseen that one. But no, just a little second grade teacher here. That's all.
No such thing. No such thing as a little second grade teacher.
Tammy's right, Bev. Tammy and I know full well how significantly important those fundamental years, and we've talked about, I would give anything to sit in your class and watch you, be inspired by you, see how you interact with these impressionable minds, and just learn how excitement just empowers learning and creativity, and how you pull that off every single day. So my hat off to you, Bev, because how elementary teachers do what they do.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah. Beverly.
Timmy, talk about the whole child.
Yes, let's get there because we could spend
Right?
all 30 minutes talking about how great Beverly is.
Just think about that. She sees the whole child, I believe, more than we do.
That is.
And I'm tweeting out the first question.
Tammy, I was expecting a response from you on that one, but instead she's frozen in this Google Hangout.
Hey. Yeah, there we are. I'm back. Yay! Love technology there. We're talking about the child, that 24/7 child, that child that goes home, and what do they do when they're not with us? So beyond just that little tiny portion, some of us have less than an hour worth with these children a day. And so we're talking about the whole kit and caboodle, their hobbies, their home life, their personalities, their struggles, how that all interacts to come to be sitting in that little chair in front of us in the classroom. So that's what we're talking about today. When we talk about the whole child, that's what we're talking about.
I'd just like to add one thing. My students in high school, they drive, they're dating, they have jobs. Some of them are 3-season athletes, and all of that takes up or consumes so much more of their time than just the time that they're with us in our learning environment. And all of that, I believe, adds and develops and makes them who they are, because we only see them for a very small period of time, Timmy, as you said.
Right. And so what we're doing today is called a tweet and talk. Beverly is manning our Twitter feed, and so she's going to be putting some questions out there. We're going to be talking about them here as well, and we hope that you will join us. Let me turn on the question and answer. So if you are on YouTube watching, you can put some questions in if you have questions, and we would be more than happy to have you join our conversation that way. Or tweet them with the hashtag 360PD which is the hashtag that we use here at FullCirclePD, which is our website. So join us out there as well. We have a couple of members missing today. Eric Turner could not be here for he had some family issues to deal with, and so did Justin Nacarado. Eric helped. Nacarado. I apologize.
Not everybody has a 4-letter last name that's easier to pronounce like we do.
I didn't used to, so I should know better. I should know to practice before I go on air. That's okay. Eric teaches high school history, and Justin teaches third grade?
Third grade, yes.
Third grade elementary. So we try to span the whole gamut here. So are we ready for question 1, guys?
I think we're ready to go.
Okay. Question 1. Provide specific examples of how you foresee students cultivating the whole child in your learning environment.
Timmy,
so Beverly's going to put that out on Twitter.
Great. I guess I'll jump in and offer just a starter. When in our learning environment, our students and I have sort of equal time in the classroom. We have a collaborative learning environment where their voice, I believe, is heard more than mine, at least as much, and therefore I look for their leadership skills, we look for their communication skills, we look for their sometimes reluctance, sometimes aggressiveness, and all of those qualities are developed, I believe, prior to them arriving in our learning environment, but they're sustained and developed and worked on there. So I just want to put out that we look at qualities that have absolutely nothing to do with mathematics, but we have mathematics as the content that we're discussing, but those communication and leadership skills, critical thinking skills, to me, are invaluable.
Right. And I know that for myself, being a CTE teacher this year, I get to see stuff that you don't get to see in a math class. I get to see them saying, oh, I can use this here, or I can use this there. I have kids coming to me and saying, does my resume look right? Because they know they can use the computers in my classroom to design that, and that's part of what we're teaching in my class. So I get to have a little more flexibility in the topics that I do projects around, and so my students get to choose a little more about themselves when it comes to their projects. So I have no problem thing they choose. So find something you're interested in, and so it helps me see that other side of that child. And you know, I teach 6/12, so I do have children, and I have young adults as well, like you do, Rick, who here to me, ever present. And when we forget about those, then I think we do a disservice to not only our subject area, but we do a disservice to those kids. And I really hope that my students see that I care about them beyond the computer apps or beyond the game design. That to me is really more important, that the whole child is more about building that relationship.
Timmy, I'm sure they do, and correct me if I'm wrong, but are you with them in an elective course?
Yes. This year I moved from a core subject math last year to an elective CTE, which is career and technical education. That's what we call vocational, where I'm at.
So therefore, they're taking your course because they have an interest in it, and therefore you're seeing a personal side of them. You're seeing a side of them that they want to develop, that they have an interest in. And my guess is they're more genuinely interested in your content than some of my students might be in a core subject like an English, math, science, history kind of thing.
Most of them. There are students out there who, for lack of a better phrase, has kind of got stuck in the scheduling and they had to take the lesser of two evils. And I don't mean that any of the other teachers are evil. That's not what I mean. I mean that this neither subject.
Bev, you need to tweet that out, Bev. That was precious. That was precious.
That neither subject to them. One that spoke to them more than the other one didn't. So, and I think, Beverly, is that signal saying you have something to share? Or not? No, not yet. Okay, that's okay. Making sure I got the signal straight, which is also a part of the whole child. So we deal with our own inner children here at FullCirclePD.org.
And I guess I'd just like to say that when students come into our classroom, I'm always aware that they've just left another classroom, and what happened in that other classroom may or may not set them up for success in our classroom. So I try to be aware of students coming in and checking their eye contact, checking their body language to see if they've just come out of a test that they've done really poorly on, or they've just had a gym class where they were on the losing team. They may not be ready to go and optimistic about what we're going to do. So we need those hooks. We need those ears to listen to them, that greeting them by name.
Yeah.
To value that individual child, to bring them in, because it's not the math necessarily that is going to intrigue them. It's the relationship that we've developed and the culture that we have.
Right. We all have that opportunity that it may be that the student is just arriving from a PE class where they are physically exhausted now. And we all know that when we're exhausted, the brain doesn't work the way we want it to work all the time. And so even though they may be in a course like mine that they want to be in, the game design kids, trust me, they all want to be in my class.
I want to be in your class.
I want to be a student in my class. I want me to teach me.
Timmy, do you know how important that is when we would want to be a student in our own class?
Yeah. That has re-energized me this year beyond anything I can explain. Beverly has unmuted. Beverly, what do you want to add, my dear?
No, I was just making a comment. That's a good way to look at it. Would you want to be a child in your own class?
And when you would, what is it about that learning environment, Bev, from your perspective, that would make you want to be there? What is it that happens in your classroom that energizes you enough to want to be a child in your own room?
I think just the as much as there is structure, there's times when there's not that. There's those learning opportunities that are unexpected, and you can't put in a lesson plan. You can't plan for, and I think those moments are the moments that I would really want to be a student in my class. When we Skype another class in Kenya or wherever it may be, and you're having a conversation with another child. I never had that when I was in school, and I just think that would be so cool to have that opportunity to get back and just to be able to do that at such a young age.
Bev, are your students in your room interacting in a different way, learning than you did when you were in second grade?
I think my class is more global than my class was when I was growing up.
You haven't grown up, Bev, so get over that.
Okay. I think that's a big part of it. You have to think like them in some ways, but yeah. So I think a lot has changed, but I think again a lot is not. You know what I'm saying? I think the technology part of it is what I love, and I think that's what I would want to be a kid in my own class.
How do your students learn from each other and from you differently than you did when you were their age?
I think I have my students have more opportunities to learn from each other than I did. Like, I think it was more get in your chair and sit down and let's do your work kind of thing. And now they have their own little PLNs in their class. They have their own little learning groups and communities that they learn from, and it's not just me standing in front of the room all day long. So I think that's how it's different.
Tammy, I think that speaks to the whole child right there, where her students are more full-bodied. They're more aware, and they're contributing and collaborating than when we were necessarily in that grade.
Right. I really love the fact, Beverly, that you use the phrase PLN with your students so that they start to understand that the people sitting in the chair next to them are part of that personal learning network that will eventually become a professional learning network if we do this job right. And I think that's part of the difference is that we now are more focused on the whole child than what was going on when we were kids. I know that when I was a kid, okay, so the phrase that I was taught as a beginning teacher was be here now, leave all that other garbage at the door, and when you walk into my room, you're going to be just in my room. And for some kids, that is a usable tool because there's so much baggage that they bring with them. But if we're not aware of what baggage they're leaving outside of our room, we don't know what they're about to pick up when they go out, because they're going to pick it back up. It doesn't get to go. They don't get to leave it at the door forever and ever.
And Tammy, the flip side of that is outside of our classroom, they may be leading the play. They may be an assistant manager at a restaurant. They may be the oldest of 6 children taking care of a couple of them. They have huge roles.
They may have parents who are terminally ill, and they're the ones that are responsible for the day-to-day operations, and they may not even have a parent. Right. I just heard a story about a 17-year-old, not in my neighborhood. It was actually a conversation I had with someone on Voxer, but a 17-year-old who was kicked out on her 17th birthday and spent her 17th year, her senior year, bouncing from friend to friend to friend and had no place to go. But yet finished high school all on her own. Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So that whole child speaks volumes as to how she was able to sustain herself to finish her studies.
Right. And I think that leads us right into question 2. Question 2 is, how have you recently seen students demonstrating the cultivation of the whole child? And I think that's a perfect example. Children may not realize that all these outside activities make a difference, but the fact that they do, and we can see that, I know that I sponsor a couple of clubs on my campus. It's not always the same kids in every club, but I can see how them learning how to lead in these smaller clubs leads to something much bigger when they grow up, because they're not necessarily afraid of taking charge because they've been taught how to do that. We have a chess club that's opening up now on our campus, and the kids are flocking to it. And it started with 3 kids and a teacher talking about chess in class, and now we have like 50 kids out of 700 that want to have a chess club.
Amazing opportunity right there.
Yeah. So we need to be aware that there's so much more to learn than what the state says we have to teach.
And Timmy, how do we incorporate and weave in all of the really crucial parts of life into our content every day and give these students choice and voice?
Well, number one, I don't like to use, Rick, you and I both, I was math for, gosh, over 20 years, which hence my Twitter handle, Math Neil. You and I have kind of had this conversation before, but it comes back to there's no such thing as a true real-world problem that you can get out of a textbook. There's just not. That's a contrived situation. So anytime we can bring those things that matter to us or matter to our students into the classroom, if it's that I'm trying to replace a faucet in my garden and, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that what I had was 1.25 and I needed a 2-inch pipe or whatever. Those things, those real problems that we face are important to share with our kids.
Very.
History teachers who don't bring in the current political issues are losing so much. English teachers who don't give students a chance to share their own voice about whatever are losing so much. Science teachers who don't take advantage of the rocket that went up in December as a teachable moment. It's those teachable moments that we have to hold on to.
They're precious, and that's when the real child, the whole child, surfaces, I think.
Right. And we have to be willing and able. There has to be enough flexibility in our lesson plan that if that happens, we have to give way to it. We have to let that grow. And when we have administrators who get that, when we have district office people who get that, then there are amazing things. I've watched, let's see, what was it that they call it? Some people call it Genius Hours, some people call it Genius Time, Passion Projects. Those opportunities for kids to delve deeper into the things they truly, truly care about. I can promise you, I'm going to do a shout out here. I was at Ed Camp Orange this past Saturday in Orlando, Florida. A gentleman by the name of Sean Farnham. He's Fancy Pants Jones on Twitter. I believe, no, excuse me, Magic Pants Jones. I always do that. I always get it wrong. Let one of his students in her Genius Hour project collect money for breast cancer. And the class that got the most money, she baked cupcakes for. It was just as simple as that. Put a can out, collect money. They collected over $1,200 for breast cancer. But it was beyond that because she had to bring her whole class in. She had kids who had to learn how to count money. She had kids who had to learn how to roll money. She had kids who had to learn how to help with the advertisement. She had kids who wrote little articles about it in their classrooms and to share with the different kids about why it was important. She reached out to the national foundations and had someone come in, and they had a little ceremony where they gave them she even made a big check to hand out. Graphic design, so many opportunities. And that child touched lives. She never will know who she touched.
That's right. That's right. Bev, can you make sure that you put something out there when you have a moment about educators needing to take advantage of that flexibility, that when we can incorporate real-world situations and create those teachable moments, that's when our students, I think, can flourish even more. Right, Tammy?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember the phrase cross-curricular activities. And we had to, Rick, I know you've been teaching for a while, so have I. We're called veterans now.
Fortunately.
Yes. But I can remember having to write lesson plans and detail which teacher I was going to do a cross-curricular activity with, what it was going to be, and what benefits the kids would have. And if you didn't find somebody to partner with, you were in trouble. I can remember that. And I can remember thinking to myself, it's a good thing I had somebody close, because if I didn't have anybody to reach out to, because when we first started teaching, there was no Twitter and there was no Facebook, and there was the internet didn't even happen in our classrooms. We started teaching before there was wireless. You had to get permission to use the phone to call a parent.
Oh.
Because they weren't going to put one in your classroom. That cost too much. And now those collaborations can take place around the world.
Instantly.
And if the time zones are messed up, then we have YouTube videos we can send, and we have blogs we can write, and all kinds of things. And, you know, our dear friend Beverly, I'm going to do a shout-out to what she's about to do. She's got a 24 hours of Skype coming, and she has just been crazy busy trying to get it all set up. But she and her kids, I think, are going to Skype around the clock. Is that correct, Beverly? And they're going to meet with people all over the world, so that they can get those time zones in line. And I cannot wait. I cannot wait, Beverly, to hear how it goes.
Bev, what are you anticipating?
We're gonna start in Europe, and we're gonna end in Europe. So for 24 hours, and we're gonna so some of the questions the kids are gonna be talking to other classrooms about is, how do you learn reading? How do you learn math? What are some of your responsibilities? And then they're going to teach us something unique to their culture or to their country or something like that. So, along with some other questions, but it's going to be the Skypes from within themselves are going to be a learning experience for the kids. So
Bev, when is this scheduled for?
March 26th and 27th. So we're going to start at 6 a.m. on March 26th, and we're going to see how many are standing at March 27th at 6 a.m.
You'll be outstanding. I know that, Bev. You will be outstanding.
But that leads us directly to question number 3, and we have 5 minutes left in our little talk.
Great.
And if we go over a couple of minutes, we're okay, but for the most part, we want to wrap up in about 5 minutes. Question 3 is, in what ways have you encouraged students in taking personal responsibility? And Beverly's got a 2nd grade class, and those kids are doing the research about the countries they're visiting and the classes they're visiting, and it's amazing to listen to the passion that comes from the teacher. And I know that she's getting fed from her students, that passion, that energy that she's giving out is coming back to her because her students are so excited about doing what they're doing. And, you know, I think that we all, as teachers, encourage our students to be personally responsible. It's about more than just getting the homework in on time. We have those conversations with our classes all the time about all kinds of things. Rick, you talked earlier about the high school students who are having relationships and driving cars, and I'm sure there's all kinds of conversations that you're having dealing with those extracurricular activities.
And a couple of them, they happen all the time, and they do. They dramatically influence how they see the class or our learning, and I only see a piece of that, I know, but I recently recall a student, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't know her exact words, but she was unsure about something, and she asked a question, and I questioned how she was asking it, and she said, well, Mr. Rowe, you've said that this is a safe learning environment where every question is okay to put out there, and she was really struggling with something, but still she put that question out there because she was responsible to want to delve into it. She wanted to know, and there was no fear. There was nothing. And I thought, oh, I remember I grabbed my chest at that moment, and I thought, that is a real culture. That is an open relationship where I have a question. I probably should know the answer to this, but I don't. But I'm going to put it out there because I know it's okay to ask. To
Wow.
me, that's worth everything.
Yeah, that's the bottom line. You have that student comfortable enough to talk to you about whatever the topic was. Clearly, it was something that probably didn't fit in with the curriculum you were teaching of the day. But I have a feeling that the answer that she got from you or from the classmates was more important than whether they could solve that equation for X.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one other student comes to mind right now. I want to give him an anonymous shout out, but this was maybe a month ago, and I can see where he was sitting, and he said, Mr. O, can I ask you a question? And I said, you know you always can. He said, no, this one's intense. And I said, well, sure, put it out there. And he said, I have to say that you have high standards, but you keep raising the bar. And he said, lately, we can't reach it. The bar is a little bit out of reach, and just as we reach that bar, you pull it inches away out of our reach. And he said, I just have to be the spokesperson now and say, we feel like we'd like you to back off a little bit.
Wow.
And I looked at him, and he said, I know it's okay, and I'm getting choked up thinking about this. He says, I know it's okay for me to say that to you because of the relationship we've developed.
That's a great way to put it, though. Oh, my gosh.
He's a senior in high school, and he just said, wait a minute. You keep pushing us, and we appreciate it, but you're pushing a little too hard right now, and we need you to back off because we just are struggling.
Yeah.
And
wow.
I asked him to tweet it out, and he did that day, and I'm sorry, it paled in comparison to what he actually said in that room, but in 140 characters or less, it is pretty tough to state his intentions behind that.
Yes.
But I was honored that he could say, listen, I need to tell you something, and I'm going to be the spokesperson for this group.
Yeah.
That's responsibility right there.
You know what? That says a lot for how you've built relationships in your room, because evidently they feel like they can come to you and tell you anything, and that's kudos to you. So, yes, awesome.
Well, Bev, if we don't,
I'm back.
Then what is learning? What is an environment where they can't equally share that whole person in them?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the way it should be, though. That's what I'm saying. That's the way it should be, and it's not in every classroom, but that's the way it should be. That's the way it should look. Absolutely.
Well, Bev, maybe if other educators who aren't yet there see this Google Hangout and learn some changes that could be made so that we can all learn from one another, then maybe there can be more classrooms where students are free and responsible to pull the learning rather than have educators being pushing the learning.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us back to what we do here at FullCirclePD. We talk about bringing professional development into the circle. And so today we started talking about the whole child and that what that perspective looks like in our classrooms. And so I charged the rest of my team this week. We'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about the things that we experience in the next 2 weeks. And to go a little deeper, we have some more questions that we want to ask each other. And we want your feedback. So what we're going to do in the next 2 weeks is we're really going to be looking at that whole child. We're going to be looking at each and every child that walks through our door as a unique individual. And what can we learn? Can we make sure we know something special about and every child that walks through our door?
And incorporate that into our learning.
And incorporate that into our classrooms as much as we possibly can. So when we come back in 2 weeks, we'll be talking about that and we will start to go deeper into the whole child and how that whole child interacts in our classrooms. What we can do, not just for our sakes, but really more importantly for the student.
Absolutely.
How can we get the child, that student, to see that the things we're teaching really do benefit the whole child?
Because it is all about that whole child. It is.
Right. And so I'm going to say on behalf of Rick and Beverly and Eric and Justin, who aren't here, we want to say thank you for joining us. It has been a pleasure having this conversation. Please, please, please stop back. We'll be back in 2 weeks with some follow-up, and we're going to keep going around and around this circle until we get to the center of that whole child. So we will see you again in 2 weeks.
Take care.